Hello and welcome, everybody. It is Coach Jackson, and we are here with another episode of Client Success Stories. I've got Matthew on the line, and Matthew crushed the program, knocked it out of the park. He lost 16 pounds, 2.5 inches off of his waist, and increased his strength score by 200 points. Some incredible numbers. In fact, he's even wearing pants that the waist size is so low he hasn't worn since high school, and his old pants were falling off of him. They were literally around his ankles because they were so loose because he got so fit over the course of the 16-week program. So Matthew, incredible results here. I want to thank you for being here. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Again, name's Matthew Kind. I started this program 16 weeks ago, and it's changed my life. Little background of myself. I was pretty active in high school. I'm kind of middle-aged right now. I have a wife and 2 kids, and have a pretty good life. I enjoy it, but my line of work, if you will, is more office focused, and I tend to sit at a desk a lot and kind of in the finance industry. And unfortunately, I kind of got away from myself a little bit and focused on myself. I was more focused on work and really kind of got out of shape, and it was kind of in a rut. And as my kids were getting older, it was harder to keep up with them and their daily lives. And I said, you know what, I gotta make a decision here and take into account my future. And fortunately, I was able to find you and your program, and it's been a life changer.
Wow, that's incredible. And this is something that we hear from so many of the people who are sitting in your seat that do these interviews with us is, I wanted to do this because my family or my kids or my wife or my husband, there's always a lot of connection to family there. So, as you're thinking about kind of doing this, what were maybe 1 or 2 of the moments, or was there a breakthrough? Like, was there something specific that said, I have to do this and I have to figure this out? Or was it more of a gradual awakening to knowing that you had to make a change?
It started off as gradual, and because it was gradual, it wasn't really pushing me over the top, if you will. It wasn't really until my son, who plays a lot of high school tennis, and started asking me to play with him and so forth. And I'm getting there and I can't even stay on the court with him. And that was really kind of that epiphany for me, if you will. And it's like, okay, that's it. I'm going to invest in myself here and make the change.
Wow, that's incredible. That had to have been humbling on one hand, right? A very inspiring and maybe even prideful, seeing your son being able to run around the court and do all these athletic things, which is great, but then also humbling that you weren't able to kind of keep up. But I'm so glad that you're able to set aside your ego. You're able to put things in perspective and say, okay, this is my situation. I'm not going to pout. I'm not going to whine. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to wish it were different or easier. I'm going to work to make myself better. I'm going to make a tough decision, and I'm going to get the help that I need. Now, a lot of people have fears, have all kinds of emotions and things about whether it's getting help or starting a program or trying things. This isn't going to work for me. It works for other people, not for me. It's going to be too hard. What if it doesn't work? What if this is a scam? Like, did you have any of those thoughts and fears? And if you did, how did you set them aside to take action and to get to where you're at now?
I didn't have any fears about the program. It was more on myself if I was going to be able to stay committed. It was more doubting myself. And maybe that's a little bit of a lack of self-confidence. And I that's kind of what my biggest hurdle was and what I wanted to overcome and get over. And once I was able to do that, for the most part, it was pretty smooth sailing. So that's the other thing this kind of program taught me is just kind of believe in yourself, and that's you're your biggest proponent, or I'm my biggest proponent, and that's been huge too. So
wow. $1 million question, Matthew. How did you get to the point that you're now believing in yourself? Was it just consistent action? A lot of times people will define confidence as keeping the promises you make to yourself. What was it, if you had to sum it up or define it to somebody else? Like, what were the action steps that got you to going from don't believe in myself, don't know if I can follow along and make this happen, to now I trust myself?
I think it was just staying committed to the process. And I know you kind of hear that in sports and stuff, trust the process. I said, you're the process. I'm going to trust the process. every day I wake up in the morning when I was on this program, I said that was the gift right there. Every day you wake up in the morning and here's what I'm going to do for that day and how I'm going to invest in myself. And once I got into that habit, that first day, then the second day, the third day, and then building on it, it just became like second nature. So that to me, if I look at myself today versus before I started, is just, it's a different person.
Wow. There's a lot of wisdom in what you just shared, which is chunking down, breaking things down, focusing on the process, taking one step at a time, and then building up, not going from 0 to 60 necessarily, but going from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 and just continuing to work up. And it's funny because a lot of us, especially a lot of men out there, we idolize athletes in many regards. I grew up in Chicago, idolizing Michael Jordan as a kid. And if you look at the athletes that you respect, you idolize, that you watch on television, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, whoever it might be, that have consistency, they show up, they put in the work, they do the things that are necessary, and they grow and they build up over time, just like you're explaining. Michael Jordan didn't start out winning championship after championship. He had to put in a lot of work over a long period of time. He had to get beat up and knocked down and dragged through the mud to get to the point that he was able to win that first championship and then continue to excel from there. So it wasn't 0 to 60 even for Michael Jordan. He started out, he got beat up a lot. He lost a lot of big games. A lot of people doubted him, said he'll never win. He's only going to score baskets. And he was able to continue to work on himself and take one step after the next. And next thing you know, now he's the legend that we all know. So there's a lot of wisdom in what you just shared, and I appreciate that. Now, let's talk about as you kind of got into the program. So you're in the program, you're going through the process, you're doing this stuff. I guess, what were maybe some of the challenges that you faced, especially early on? Because it could get difficult. Sometimes, we think we can do it and then we get into the thick of it. And there's always that sort of, that optimism that people will have before they get into something. Oh, I'll be able to do this. It's not going to be that bad. I can overcome. And then you get into it and you go, whoa, this is actually kind of hard. This is difficult. I have to stick through these things. Working out for the first week was easy, but now I have to do it again. Work, I've travel, other things. How did you kind of overcome? What were some of the obstacles? And then how did you overcome those, especially early on?
Yeah, I think before I started the program and when I first met you and we were first talking, I kind of was maybe, I've got my diet dialed in and I'm good with everything. And I got it all up here in my head. I can visualize, this serving size or that. And I think you kind of were maybe chuckling, to yourself without coming across that way. And then, I get my schedule for that first week and this goes back. I'm looking at it. I'm like, man, whether it was 1,700 calories, no carbs. I think I messaged you. It's like, it's starting to get real right now. And so that took a lot of focus and dedication, that initial one, because I really wanted to make an effort to measure and weigh my food. And because I'm doing this, I'm committing to it. Where in the past, whether it's a handful of nuts, I just take a handful and say, that's a serving size. But then it's like, now when you weigh it and you see it and you're like comparing the difference, it's like, okay, this is a real big deal right now. And it took about that first week and a half, and I really got that diet dialed in. But then, as far as life, obviously, is still happening as this is all going on too. And, whether it's Sunday and you're kind of picturing what you want your workout schedule to be like for that week, there's definitely going to be some curveballs coming in. So I made a point to try to schedule a designated time every week that I could, or every day that I could devote myself, that I could be dedicated to that workout, not be interrupted by what was going on, so I could focus directly on that. And once I got that dialed in, it was pretty smooth from that point on, but it was about that first week and a half from the diet and then making that schedule adjustments. So it was, I found myself asking, it's like, what did I do, But then once I got over that and committed to it, we're there.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime that you try to achieve something, you set out to achieve something noteworthy, a big goal that you have, whether it's losing weight, building muscle, building a business, paying off debt, whatever, oftentimes early on in that process, you're going to find yourself in that valley of despair where you're like, I don't know if I can do this. Boy, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. There are some challenges. And that's where you have to kind of push through. That's where you have to find, whether it's tactics or strategies or mindset, or have coaching and accountability to kind of continue to push you, because the only way you're going to get to the higher ground is by walking through the mud. The only way that you're going to get to the other side is by just pushing through. And I think there's a famous quote by Winston Churchill. He says, when you're walking through hell, keep going. And when you're in that despair, that difficult time, you have to keep pushing, because it's the only way you're going to get to the other side. And if you retreat back and you go back, okay, fine, but then you're just delaying and making it harder. And you're just now going to have to face that monster at some point in the future. So better to just keep going, push through. Obviously, you want to leverage tactics and strategies and coaching and accountability for all these things to make it easier on yourself, but you just have to push through. And once you get to the other side, things get a little bit easier. Your skills start to build. Now you kind of have a better understanding, a grasp on things. You have your go-to meals, etc. You know exactly what you're doing. Now things begin to get easier, and that's how you build momentum. But early on, absolutely, you get stuck in that valley of despair. You just have to push through, because it will get easier. You know, anybody that did anything well, these interviews, I've done almost 100 of these interviews specifically. I've posted over 300, almost 400 videos on YouTube. I have over 500 Instagram posts. I didn't get good at speaking to a camera by sitting at my desk and reading books about it, or by hiding away in my bedroom or anything. I got good at it by doing it. And if I look back at my first videos, they're horrible. They're terrible. They're so embarrassing. I wouldn't want to show them to anybody, but I do, and I would show them, because I'd want to show you the contrast of how bad I was and where I've gotten to now, which is certainly not Tony Horton level. I'm not excellent yet. I wouldn't put myself on that pedestal, but a lot better. And the dissonance is huge. The gap and the progression is definitely noticeable in there. And that's what's exciting about it. And then when you start to get better and build momentum, well, now you're getting excited. Now you feel motivated. Now you feel like taking action. It becomes easier and easier as you condition your mind and your body to do so, and as you build your skills, which is really, really incredibly important. So thank you for sharing that. Now, as you've kind of gone through this journey, again, we mentioned some of the stats: down 16 pounds, 2.5 inches, strength score up 200 points. You mentioned this has been transforming for your life. And, you know, how are you now? Are you able to play tennis with your son? What's that like? What's life like now that you're on the other side of this?
Yeah, that's been that was funny, because my son was playing tennis with a friend, and it was a hot day. And I go pick him up, and he's all sweating. He ended up losing the match. He was frustrated. And because it was a hot day, I joked to him. I said, man, your cardio is shot. You have nothing. So I said, you and your old man are going to do, it's one of your programs, one of your HIIT programs. And so it's always pride, you know, because it's still my son, but to be able to do a program with him, and he's struggling, but then to see him and that I'm going to be able to shape him and build him up. I wasn't doing that before this. And so here I am, I'll say my age, I'm 48, I'm going to be 48. You know, never in my mind would have thought that. So. Wow.
That's an incredible moment, Matthew. And it gets me choked up and teared up, because I think about my dad and my relationship that I have with him, and getting my first weight set from him when I was 5. And I've shared this a few times on different episodes, but every time I go back home, and my dad's 76 now, and when I go back home, we go to the gym together and we work out together, and my dad works out, and I'll spot him and give him some pointers, and you're not doing this exactly right now. And it's awesome, because the tables have really turned, where he was guiding me and showing me when I was just a little kid and through my teens and 20s. And then there was that inflection point where I got bigger and I got stronger than him. And then the tables turned, and now I started to help him out and guide him and give him help and advice and other things. And he was having something wrong with his knee, and I showed him an exercise, and he's like, oh, my knee's feeling so much better. And it's just such a loving, bonding thing that you can do with your kids, and especially that dad and son relationship. And it's meant the world to me. I know it's meant the world to him. And it's something we get to share. And it's a way we get to bond and show we care for each other every time I go home. And even if it's joking with each other, even if it's a little bit of poking fun at or something, that's the way we show we care about each other. And it's just such a wonderful moment. And my wife commented on it last time we were there. She's like, it's so cool to see you and your dad there, working out together. And I'm like, what a beautiful moment. And I don't know how many more of those I'll get, but man, it's incredible every time I go home. So I'm so happy for you and thankful that you're able to guide your son like that and share and connect in that way, because had you not gone through the program, or had you not gotten your health and fitness to where it is now, you wouldn't have that moment. And maybe you can get it in a different way, but also maybe not. And your son's looking at you now saying, yeah, my dad's the example. He's the inspiration. He's sort of the guiding force. And again, we've had countless other guys who've gone through the program that said, my kids were mimicking my habits of watching television or eating ice cream or not working out. And I tell them to go out and play or do this or do that. Well, why would I do that, Dad? You don't do it. And now you're the example. You're setting the bar for them, and you're setting them up for future success with their health and their fitness. And wow, that's just so powerful. It's so incredible. And I just want to say thank you for doing that. And I'm sure that means a lot to your son. Even if he didn't express it, I know one day he's going to come back and say, Dad, I'm so happy that you did that for me.
Yeah, and like I said, and without me being introduced to you, that wasn't even something that was going to happen. And now to see it now is just, like I said, that's our relationship now is at a different level too. Just awesome.
Wow, incredible. What are some of the other kind of benefits that you might have experienced, other than obviously having your pants that were too big fall down around your ankles? But other than that, and just some of the stats, what are some of the other benefits?
Yeah, I mean, just resting heart rate is down now into right around 60. Cholesterol numbers had gone from over 250 down to like 165 total. I feel like I don't get my money's worth now when I go to the doctor, because when I have my last checkup, I tell them, the program what I was doing, and they only spend like 5 minutes with me. It's like, man, you're doing phenomenal. You got to go, and it's like, I feel like, wait a minute, so, but that's, I'll take it, but, and so that's the biggest thing to me. And then also just taking some of the program directives and just applying them to life in general, and just in my work life, even how I do my job on a day-to-day basis. The thing is, it's not just lifting weights, it's just the mentality that translates to work, it translates to personal life. And so to be able to take that, my attitude level has just done a 180. So it's really been transformative for me. And the challenge, if there's one, is like with anything, you kind of are like, sometimes I find myself, man, if I would have started sooner. But then I won't worry about it after so long, because it's like, you can't change it. You can only focus on the now and what's forward. And so I'm just so appreciative for that and love it.
Yeah, I'm a big reader of Stoic philosophy. Ryan Holiday, his books are fantastic and amazing. And one of the things I have on an index card on my monitor is it says, focus on what you can control. And obviously we can't control the past. We can't change what happened in the past. All we can change is what happens in the future. So yes, it stinks that you didn't start earlier. Yes, that would have been nice if you did. And this is kind of something that we share. I got into fitness when I was 31. Now, I had done fitness modeling before that. Of course, I worked out since I was 5. I'd been an athlete in high school and also in college. I played baseball there. But I didn't professionally pursue fitness until I was 31. So I've been doing this now for 10, almost 11 years. But I always think, what if I had started when I was like 21? Holy cow, where would I be at now? How many people would I have been able to help? What kind of impact would I have on the world? How many books would I have written? I've written one now, but maybe I'd have 2 or 3 under my belt. Maybe I'd have a much bigger coaching program. I would have helped so many more people. Who knows what I would have been able to do? But that thought doesn't serve me. I can't change the past. So I got to focus on what I can control, which is only the future. And better that I started at 31 than never started at all, or started at 41. Because I've seen some of my friends who maybe want to change careers a lot later in life, around 40, and then that's way harder than certainly changing at 31. So while yes, it's easy to look back and say, man, I wish I would have started earlier. The reverse thought of that is a really good thought perspective that I got from Charlie Munger, which is like the inversion of things. What if you never started? Or what if you had to start today? Boy, that would be so much harder. So better that you started when you did than to start now or to have never started at all. So that's the flip side of that. So yes, wish you would have started earlier, but hey, better that you got started when you did than never at all. So I can totally relate to that. Any other obstacles or things that maybe you had to overcome, of course, along the way that maybe you want to share, or insights that you want to share for people?
I think the diet piece is the obstacles was just the Facebook group. I know I don't like to post a lot, but the Facebook group was really helpful to see the support and how willingly everybody is so able to offer tips and advice, because that's the other thing. It doesn't take just you. It takes really it's a team environment. You need that support. And sometimes I just had to remember always to look for it and go look at it, because sometimes if you're just going through, focusing on yourself, thinking, hey, I'm going to get through it, you can get into that rut and you can get pulled down and stuck. So thankfully, over the group and the other resources that were available, it really made it easy once I got past through that first week and a half to kind of stay on target and stay focused. So
yeah. One of the things that can happen when you're going through a difficult experience is that you kind of feel a little bit isolated or alone sometimes. So if you're trying to do this on your own without any other assistance or help, or even if you are trying to do it with somebody guiding you, but there's not a lot of community aspect there, it can feel very isolating and lonely. And one of the things that can make us feel better is just knowing that there's other people out there that are going through the same thing. That connection and community can add so much value and can add a lot of fuel to your fire and help you continue on when you feel like, oh, we're going through this together. That's why if, with fraternities, a lot of the initiation rituals and the difficulties they make you go through. For me, I wasn't in a frat, but I was on the baseball team. And they make that beginning class, that freshman class, you have to go through these challenges all together, where they do all these things and they make it really hard on you, but you're in it together. And because you're in it together, you're able to go further than you would on your own, and you're able to stick with it, because on your own, you'd probably just quit. So community can be so helpful for not feeling lonely, for having other people around you to kind of like push you and provide some accountability, support, inspiration also as well. And then you think, well, if they're going through it, if somebody else did it, maybe I could too. It gives you some belief and optimism. And then they could share ideas with you that you never would have got on your own, or maybe even your coach might not have. And those ideas can be things that make things, unlock all kinds of tactics or strategies that you, again, might not have otherwise had on your own, or who knows if you ever would have figured out. So it can really shortcut your learning curve on top of providing accountability and support along the way. So community is tremendously impactful and important. And thinking back on my own life, one of the biggest breakthroughs that I had was joining this gym in San Francisco called Diacati. I had never heard of this gym. I happened to move there. I really believe this is like divine intervention. I moved to San Francisco to pursue fitness, whatever that meant. I happened to move 1 mile away from the best personal training gym, like I believe in the country, just incredible gym where the owners really try to help people set up their own business and teach them and help them to grow and to learn and educate them and provide that community and support. And I walked in there not knowing anything about training. And I left a couple of years later, and I had helped countless numbers of people. I had learned so much and I had grown, and it was all because of community. I didn't even know it was possible to be an in-person trainer that was making a reasonable income, that was helping people and doing it ethically without just selling supplements. And here was a whole gym of people who were making, anywhere between even part-time coaches who were making a very good income, around 75,000 or more, and full-time coaches making six figures, which I couldn't even fathom. I was like, holy cow, there's coaches here making six figures training people. I was like, this is unbelievable. I'd never even heard of this. Didn't even know it was possible until I walked into that gym. And then not only was it possible, but I had the guidance, the education, the support, the community, accountability to make it happen. And I went from zero, no clients at all, to $10,000 a month in 7 months because of that support and that community that was built in, and the belief that this is possible. If they did it, I can do it. So community, so important. All right, well, I don't want to obviously take up too much of your time, but in terms of where you're at now, what's next for you? How are you going to maintain this or progress from here? Like what are you doing next in order to keep going? Because as you know, the journey isn't getting fit, it's staying fit that's important.
Yeah, I'm going to continue with the food, exercise, the strategies, the diet. The thing was too is I found I like a lot of healthy foods as part of this. I appreciate my palate, and then was going to continue look into legacy, because, like I said, this is just the beginning of the journey for me. This is just the start. Now that I feel like I get the momentum, that's the next step and where I want to take it. Just because now that I know how I feel, I don't want to go back to what it was before. So that's the motivation right there. No regression, just progression. So
that certainly resonates a lot with me. You have to have somewhere to run towards, but you also have to have something to run away from. And I think if you want to get somewhere and you want to get there quickly and you want to be successful at it and you don't want to regress, then having both of those things, where am I going and what am I running away from? And if you have those two things, then you can be massively successful, because you have the positive, the light, the bright motivation, the inspiring, I want to get to this point, but you also have the negative, the dark side, the what I'm running away from, the kind of downside. And that can really provide a tremendous amount of leverage, because sometimes the light will be inspiring and it'll be, motivating to go towards it. But other times you look back behind you at the darkness and you go, whoa, don't want to go there. Let me keep going. So I love that. And really what it's about is calibrating and crafting a new lifestyle. It's taking these habits and these skills and building them over time to get to the point that you adopt and really change your lifestyle and who you are and how you think of yourself and your identity, because ultimately that's going to be what makes you successful over the long term. And it's not a diet necessarily. It's just changing the way you eat from a lifestyle perspective. You mentioned, I like healthy foods. Well, what the data tends to show is that people like the foods they eat. So if you start eating healthier foods that are like high volume, right, nutrient dense, minimally processed foods, these are things like obviously lean meats and fishes and non-starchy vegetables and good quality carbohydrates. When you start to eat more of these foods and less super highly processed, crazy palatable foods that bypass your satiety signals, well, what do you tend to like? You tend to like the foods that you eat, and then you find things that will fit your taste buds. And now your taste buds change a little bit. And now you're like, oh, I love these foods. You find ways of maybe spicing them up or making them a little bit more interesting, but you tend to like the foods that you eat. So that's another really important point for people out there as well. If maybe at first you're like, I don't like this as much. Okay, well, give it a shot for a couple of weeks. I bet your taste buds are going to change. And maybe you can find a way of spicing that up. I used to hate non-starchy vegetables, broccoli, stuff like that. Well, with a little bit of salt, broccoli actually tastes surprisingly good. You could also add some different seasonings or dressings. My wife doesn't really like broccoli, but she likes different, she likes light ranch dressing, a little bit of light ranch dressing on it, only 30 calories. Now broccoli tastes a heck of a lot better. So there's ways of maybe improving it, spicing it up a bit, but also there's ways of just eating it and shifting your palate as well. So Matthew, I want to just say thank you. I want to acknowledge you. I really do appreciate you trusting us, you investing in yourself, taking a leap of faith in being here to share your story with so many of us. And really the most touching moment for me is the moment with your son. That is just so incredible. That's really made my day, made my week, in fact. And I just love that story. And it hits so close to home for me. I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad that we're able to be even a small part of that journey for you. And I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you. It really does mean a lot to me that you're here. You're inspiration to many people, including your friends, your family, and now people, out in the world. Any last thoughts you'd like to share, advice, tips, or tricks for people out there who are like, Matthew's awesome, but I'm kind of back here in this beginning position. I don't know if I can do it.
So a couple things. Thank you so much for you. But then going back to my son, I didn't answer it when you asked if I could keep up with him on the tennis court. He can kick my butt playing tennis. But I will say to him, because it's pride, he will not stay on that court longer than me. He will tire out before I do because of this. But that's a whole pride thing. But if I could tell somebody that wasn't into this program or they were looking at doing it, I would say do it 100%, because just look at me, trust the process, believe in yourself. You're going to have people that support you. Don't be ashamed or afraid of where you're starting. Just think about where you're going to finish, and just do that, and just invest in yourself, because it's life-changing. And, you know, I'm getting a little choked up right now when I say this, because this was big for me, man. And I'm just grateful.
Well, we're grateful for your story and for all your hard work and for being here. So thank you. And you heard the man. So action is the difference between dreaming and succeeding. So take action and make your dreams come true.